Ohayuki, and Happy New Year, everyone! Yukichi Reikyu here, and 2024 is looking to be an exciting year for trading card games. The Pokemon TCG rotation is gonna shake up the standard format, Dragon Ball Super is getting a reboot complete with an online client, and of course, Yu-Gi-Oh's actual 25th anniversary, which I've got a lot of plans for, so subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. And in early December, we got the bombshell announcement that in summer 2024, Shadowverse will be getting completely revamped as the sequel game, Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. It's been a couple of weeks since then, so let's give the trailer a proper look over and dive into the confirmed information. Worlds Beyond, being a reboot of the original game, will have gameplay that's mostly similar to the existing games. Naturally, some of the mechanics have been revamped, and some brand new ones are being added. The most fundamental change is in regard to the classes one can build the deck around. The Shadowcraft and Bloodcraft classes will be joined as the single Abysscraft class, just as they are in Shadowverse Evolve. Unlike Evolve, however, Portalcraft will be returning in Worlds Beyond, as the reason it was cut was due to the class's mechanics being difficult or impossible to replicate in an analog setting. In an interview with Famitsu, game director and local meme Kimura Yuito explained that having more classes makes it more difficult to properly balance the game, so Abysscraft helped streamline the process, but they also wanted to keep Portalcraft to showcase the things that are only possible in digital card games. Given that Artifact in its various forms is my favorite deck in Shadowverse, I'm certainly happy to see this, as it was one of my few complaints with Evolve. The confirmed new mechanics in Worlds Beyond so far also seem to be taking cues from Evolve. The first of these is the ability Act, or Engage in English, Shadowverse's equivalent to tap skills. These are abilities that can be activated at any time during the player's turn, as long as the conditions are met, as opposed to the current game where all effect resolution is automatic, allowing for greater player control. The ability is showcased on the new card Adventurer's Guild, a neutral amulet card that gets a follower from your deck on play, then can be engaged to buff one of your followers that's already on the board. Might be an early metagame staple? The second new mechanic is Super Evolution, an expansion to the existing Evolution mechanic. Super Evolution will grant followers an even more powerful effect than normal evolution, but in exchange require the player to use the new Super Evolution point resource. At the start of the 6th turn for the player going second, or the 7th turn for the player going first, a maximum of 2 of the remaining evolution points will be transformed into Super Evolution points, changing color from yellow to blue. To compensate for this, in Worlds Beyond, players are given an additional EP compared to the original game, with the player going second getting 4 and the player going first getting 3. KMR clarified in that same Famitsu article that not all followers will have the ability to super evolve, much like how only certain followers in Shadowverse Evolve actually have the ability to evolve. Additionally, we can see in the trailer that Super Evolution doesn't appear to give a greater increase in stats than regular evolution, as Aragavi the Berserker still only gets a +2/+2 buff. The showcase card for Super Evolution, Mecha Cavalier, definitely feels a bit lackluster compared to Aragavi, even without knowing his full effect. But it is only a silver being compared with a legendary, still probably not something I'd spend my SEP on. The final mechanic difference that we can see in the trailer is the starting hand size, though it's not actually directly addressed in the presentation. Instead of the 3 cards that you start out with in the existing game, the player going first starts with 4, while the player going second starts with 5. This is the same hand size you'd have in the current Shadowverse after your first turn draw, but having them in your hand from the start gives you more options for your pre-game mulligan, which should mean less games lost to bad opening hands. Now if only Evolve would allow us to have a selective mulligan. Next up, we have things that we were shown in the trailer but at the moment don't have complete information on. In the shots of the battle screen next to where the usual stats go, we can see 5 empty slots. When the Portalcraft player uses Satan, one of the slots is filled in with an emblem and the same timer that's used on countdown amulets. I think it's pretty obvious this has to do with effects that can be given to the leader, which in the current game can be viewed by hovering over their portrait. But the fact that it specifically has slots that are visible from the start of the game leads me to believe this is more than just a quality of life UI upgrade. Decks in Shadowverse have become so increasingly reliant on permanent leader effects, and while this doesn't outright confirm or deny whether it's still going to be that way, it does at least seem as though they're going to be trying to limit it, so we don't end up in situations like this again. In another shot of the battle screen, we can see that the player going second is capable of having a maximum of 11 play points instead of 10, with a button appearing underneath the PP indicator to gain an extra one. There's apparently a mechanic in Hearthstone called the Coin, in which the player going second has the option to, once per game, gain an extra PP during their turn. Shoutout to Ignideus for pointing this out in his initial reaction. I wouldn't have known about this otherwise. I've never played Hearthstone myself, so I don't know how well this actually helps mitigate the disadvantage of going second, but I do think making an actual game mechanic is preferable to the approach that they've been taking in recent years with cards like Ramiel. I do wonder if this might swing things too far in the other direction, however, since the player going second also does get the extra card in their starting hand and the extra evolution point with the ability to evolve a turn early. Speaking of the PP indicator, the turn timer is also now always visible as a circle around the end turn button, and from what we see in the trailer, the timer actually seems to pause when evolution animations are playing. As an artifact player, I've definitely found myself in some rough situations in the past because evolving my Radiance ran the timer down, so here's to hoping that that's a feature, not a bug. Of course, the actual animations for playing cards does still take time, which is fair, but I do think it's kind of unfortunate that playing certain decks at peak efficiency means having to turn the animations off. Well, that's all the information we know for certain right now. Shadowverse Worlds Beyond launches in the summer, so we're sure to learn more as we get closer to the release date. There's still more to talk and speculate about, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, and of course, follow me on Twitch, where I'll certainly be playing the game day one. Until next time, Otsuyuki.